Hey, this is Malika of Evanston Live TV, and I have with me today someone that many of you in Evanston already know, Mr. Bobby Burns. He's done so much work already in the community. We almost felt like he had an office seat already, but he's running for Fifth Ward Alderman, and he's been endorsed by Rue Simmons, the current Fifth Ward Alderman. So welcome to Evanston Live TV, Bobby. Welcome.
Thank you for hosting. Thank you for creating Evanston Live TV. It's a wonderful asset to the Evanston community. So thank you, Malika, for your work.
Thank you. So, Bobby, we're going to jump right in.
All right.
Because originally we were supposed to meet last night, do the interview last night. So we changed it because there you were thinking of your community, your people, and you said, no, I want them to attend the city council and hear about reparations and then let's get together the next evening to talk about it. So I thought that was very thoughtful of you.
Well, I can't take all the credit. Alderman Braithwaite actually was the person that alerted me to it. So I got to give him that credit. But I absolutely agreed. I wanted to attend myself and wanted to make sure that that people that wanted to attend this interview could, this forum could. So, but it was a good meeting.
Yes, it was.
Good meeting.
Yes, it
good
was.
Public comments, good discussion. It was great. It was an important moment here in Evanston, and I tuned in and was happy to tune in. So it was good.
So with you wanting to be running for Fifth Ward Alderman, which you would be looking out for the people in the Fifth Ward as well as the entire city, you'll have a voice in and you have a vision for the entire city with regards to reparations. So it's getting heated now, because I think at first, okay, I'll just paint it. At first, everyone was excited and like we gave much respect and still give much respect to Alderman Rue Simmons for pioneering and having just the courage to just go ahead and do it after people have been talking about it for years and years and years. She actually put it into motion. And as you have said, she secured the bag. So, yeah. She did what many weren't able to do. So she's already painted that blueprint to secure that bag. So it was put out there that it was a possibility of getting a check or a school in the Fifth Ward possibly, or development in the Fifth Ward where all of Evanston, but mainly the Fifth Ward would be utilizing. But now it's turned into a housing program in which very few Black families in Evanston are going to benefit from it. And people are kind of doing the math now and they're like, wait, the banks are going to, make a ton of money on reparations, but so many Black families in Evanston aren't going to receive any repair or justice. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, real quickly before I get into that, I want to acknowledge, it's become important to acknowledge the land we're on, Potawatomi land. The Native Americans who use Nile Center Road and what is now Nile Center Road and Grosse Point Road as trails to navigate these areas. I want to not acknowledge the legacy families and the generational Black families, especially who settled in Evanston around 1850 and later on through discriminatory policies and racial housing steering and restrictive covenants were pushed into the Fifth Ward and made it home and built it brick by brick and built a thriving community here. Also want to acknowledge the European migrants who were actually in the Fifth Ward first. So when we talk a lot about the Fifth Ward School and Foster School, that was actually primarily a white school before it became predominantly Black. So I want to also acknowledge the European settlers who came here, no doubt to for similar reasons that African Americans migrated here, which is to find access to jobs and to secure a better life for themselves and their family. Leading all the way up to here, and also acknowledging the generational folks like, I definitely stand on the shoulders of Lorraine, Mr. Jourdain, who was the first African American alderman here in Evanston. He was the Fifth Ward alderman for many years. I want to acknowledge his work, not only to become the first African American alderman, but through his political organizing, he also was able to help get elected the first woman alderman here in Evanston. So I want to also acknowledge his involvement in the ward, as well as my mentor's mother, Edna Summers, who is well known here and was also a Fifth Ward alderman who has done so much, all the way up to Alderman Holmes and Alderman Simmons, as you said, who I'm happy that that she's given me her support. But I definitely stand on their shoulders and honored to have the opportunity to serve. How do I feel about reparations? First off, reparations is a huge issue. It's about repair, right? It's about an economic harm, but also an emotional, a psychological, and harm. And it's all of ours, right? So I'm not going to sit here and tell people how they should feel about it. I think if people are concerned, have concerns about the way this first reparatory justice program is being rolled out, that they should express those concerns. That's their right. What I will say, going back to what you said, is I do think that that Alderman Simmons secured the bag, and hopefully we've all taken a moment just to appreciate that, because if we remind ourselves, most of the conversations around reparations for African Americans have only gotten as far as meetings about meetings, right? And so for the first time in this nation's history, Alderman Simmons decided to kind of bypass the never-ending discussions around whether or not it's justified and around how it will be administered, and said, let's get the bag first. Let's get the money first. Let's find a source of funding first. And then we can work our way back from there and figure out how we're going to administer it and use it. And I think that was brilliant, but I also think what was brilliant is that, although I'm sure, there was some concerns early on, between some of our colleagues about reparations. I only assume some of that because early on, before reparations got traction, Alderman Simmons actually came to the clerk's office, to our clerk, Devon Reed. And I was out of the clerk's office at that time, but I'm the former deputy city clerk that helped Devon Reed Clerk Reed transition in the office. And she came to Devon for support to help her make a case for reparations. And so Devon and I, as well as staff, and I commend them for the work that they did, we actually collaborated on the first official City of Evanston document that was then presented to the Equity Commission that made a case for reparations. And but after that, I think what was so brilliant about her strategy is that she assumed people would agree, and she dared them not to publicly, right? And so she did that first, then she secured the bag and identified a source of revenue. And I think it was brilliant, which is why we're now at a point where the city of Evanston is on the map for being the first city to have a taxpayer-funded reparations program in the country. Now, the first program is proposed, and it was up for discussion for the first time last night, is to use the initial $400,000 to for home mortgage purchase, for I think home remodeling, and also think that you can use it as a way to pay down your existing mortgage and interest. And what I want to remind people of is that the commitment is $1 million a year for the next 10 years, which means that there's an additional $600,000 year one that we still need to determine how we're going to use it. And I'm not saying that they should not continue to protest and make their voices heard about their current concerns around what's being proposed and discussed now. Do that, right? Do that. But also I want to call people's attention to the remaining funds, both for year one, but also the remaining years. Let's figure out how we want to use that money. If it's directing it to residents in the form of a direct cash payment, let's talk about what the barriers are to doing that and how to overcome it. But let's also, as we're having a conversation about this current proposal, let's not lose sight on the fact that there's remaining money that we still need to determine how to allocate. And there's so much opportunity there. So that's where my focus has been. But again, I'm not trying to police anybody's feelings. I want people to feel how they want to feel. This is all of ours as an African American community, and we should stay involved, continue to be involved, and make our voices heard.
And that brings me to, so that remaining money, and you're saying you want people to voice their concerns about how even the first 400,000 is being spent. So people have been voicing their concerns. People were
Yeah,
voicing their concerns pretty early on.
absolutely.
So one of the biggest complaints with city council and the residents is this disconnect. So even though aldermen will have ward meetings and committee meetings on this, on this, on this, um, it seems like the decision is already made. And so they're just going to move forward. So in knowing that that first 400,000, maybe 10 families out of how many Black families in Evanston is going to benefit, and the residents are saying that's not repair, you just helping out your friends of longtime family friends or friends. Um, if you were alderman, how would you address that? And what is your plan to listen to the Fifth Ward as well as all of Evanston to close that gap? Because right now people feel like there really is a disconnect.
For sure.
Hmm.
I mean, we always have to, as somebody that's a political consultant, a political campaign manager, most of our time is spent trying to figure out how to do outreach adequately, right? What are the different ways that we can engage the public around important discussions? And we use text, and we use door to door, and we use by mail, direct mail, and we use phone banking, and we hold meetings and we hold coffees. I say that to say, I think not just this particular institution, but what I've seen in most institutions is a deficit in creativity around how we engage people. There's so many different ways to do it. In most cases, most institutions just send out emails, and there's so many other ways that we can engage the public. And so overall, I think that we all of our institutions, both in Evanston but nationwide, can do a better job of engaging the public and making it easier for people to give input, especially on important issues like reparations, where you absolutely need as much feedback and input from people as possible. So that's kind of the first prescriptive advice that I would give. But beyond that, you know, if I get the opportunity to serve, I'm on record saying that one, it's not enough money, um, and but it's a good start, right? $1 million a year for the next 10 years. And I'm also in on record saying that personally, right, I would err more on direct cash payments. And but the reason being is I'm a millennial, right? And in a lot of different ways, right? Millennials are more likely not to have a vehicle. I don't have a vehicle. I have a vehicle that I share with a neighbor and with my mother, and I do most of my commuting on ride share, on bicycle, or walking. I don't really require a car at this point, and I also, um, you know, although I see home ownership as a path to build wealth, I personally I'm more interested in income producing investments that are going to pay me monthly, right?
Mhm.
I have a consulting company and some businesses on the side that where it's costly to come up with prototypes and it's costly to come up with some of the initial materials so that you can get the prototypes and to buy product. I would spend money on those things. If I had $25,000, I would make sure it supported my consulting company, my business, and developing a prototype and buying material and product. And I would use it on buying an income producing asset. So that's my lens, right? That's not to say that that there's an issue with the current program. I just want Fifth Ward residents and Evanston residents to understand my lens. Because that's my lens, I would prioritize programs that allow for the flexibility in this, that it can be used the way residents see fit. Um, and yeah, that's the lens that I would use. And again, that's not to say that there's an issue with this program, in that I think we can identify 16 people in the community that would have used these funds for the designated purposes. And so I think we're okay with this first program, right? It's 400,000. It should, it'll be issued to roughly 16 people. I think we should be able to find 16 people that would have used the money on a mortgage purchase, that would have used the money to remodel their home, and that would have used the money, to pay down an existing mortgage or the interest on that mortgage. I think we can find 16 people. And so with that's why I want people to direct their attention to the remaining $600,000, as well as the remaining $1 million a year for the next 9 years after this year finishes up.
Yes. Now, Bobby, I'm very familiar with your work, and I think a good portion of Evanston is familiar with your work. You've been out there helping other candidates prior to you running, and it's a diverse select of candidates that you've helped. Um, you've given them guidance and you've consulted with them to get out there in the community, and you really helped a lot of people. Haggerty being one. Um, I know you and your mom, worked really, really hard with Haggerty, and he won, and he won. Um, I think people like that about you, is that you can work with so many different people, different economic backgrounds, Republicans, Democrats. You just go for who you think is going to serve the people. And looking at your background, I know you worked over at Buku before it was Gibbs.
Right. Yeah.
You've worked on committees. One thing Alderman Braithwaite says about anyone who's running, if they haven't been on a committee, any sort of committee in this city, they have no business running for alderman.
Right.
And I think that that's an interesting point. And you are someone who has been active in
Yeah.
Evanston on committee after committee and working with city officials. So do you want to tell the people a little bit more about your background, and definitely tell us about Buku, because I was reading up on that, and tell us how Buku turned into Gibbs. I think a lot of people want to know, like, what happened to Buku.
Yeah, I'm trying to write down the questions so I hit them all. I want to start off with the ABC group, which is the African American, Black, and Caribbean parent group at District 65, which I'm really proud of. I want to start there because I see one of the residents that tuned in is Renee Stone, who is a kind of a co-founding ABC. We call that ABC for short. She's a co-founding member of the organization, of the family group, as well as Fuchsia and Anya Tanya Vudi, who's the current board president. And what we've been able to do through that committee is really create a permanent space where ABC families can learn more about District 65 initiatives, can learn more about each other and come to know one another. And I'm happy to say this year, first year, we had a $2,000 budget. This year we have a $3,000 budget. Also with that, they've allowed us, monthly space within the District 65 building to meet. And then the budget is used for childcare and to provide dinner for folks who find the time to come out and allow us to kind of meet and build with them. So, that to me is an example of what I've tried to really focus on, which is I want people to better know their government and how it works and operates.
Mhm.
Although I've had different concerns and frustrations through the years about city operations and really how most of our public institutions are operated, I've never called for people to turn away from them, partly because we pay into them with our taxes, right? These are our institutions and we should own them and understand that we're responsible um, for their success in many respects. And so what I've tried to do with my neighbors, both in Evanston, but in the ward, is create spaces where we can learn together and deepen our knowledge around the issues together, and then start to direct these institutions to behave and interact with us in a way that is suitable to us. And so I want to, call attention, thank Renee for coming out to this, and I wanted to talk about that first. As far as the political campaigns, I've had, really the honor of working with a lot of leaders across the county in Evanston, but as well as Chicago, to try to bring about systemic reform in many cases. And in other cases, you kind of look at who's running and you try to make the best decision based on the information you have. Sometimes you make mistakes. Other times you get it right. Sometimes the candidate of your choosing loses, but you always learn from it. And one of my last candidates that I ran was a progressive, Daniel Epstein. He's actually an Evanstonian. He ran for Illinois Supreme Court on a progressive, affirmatively anti-racist platform, trying to end cash bail and make sure that judges explain their sentences so people could reverse false convictions on appeal. And I've worked with William Calloway, who is the unofficial mayor in a lot of ways of 71st Street in Jeffrey. He's a friend of mine from South Shore, and we worked on food desert issues. They were in a legitimate food desert for many years when Dominex pulled out of the market. And so when I was in 71st and Jeffrey, we were talking about food deserts. We were talking about police union contracts and other things related to the police. People may remember William Calloway because he partnered with a journalist, Brandon Smith, to force the city of Chicago to release the video of what we now know showed Laquan McDonald being murdered, being shot 16 times. He was the lead activist on that, African-American gentleman with a big beard, very recognizable. And also worked with Jedediah Brown on the south side of Chicago, who has done a lot of work resisting Trump in a lot of ways. He was most notably known for when Trump came to Chicago. There's a bunch of pictures and videos of Jedediah kind of storming the stage and being grappled by what I believe was Secret Service, and he was yelling into a mic that wasn't working at the time. America is already great without hate. I've had the pleasure of working with courageous and bold leaders that have put themselves out there to work towards systemic reform, and I'm proud of that. So that's some of the political work that I've done, and Gibbs Morrison. That's Buku, now it's Gibbs Morrison. I have a special relationship with that building. One of my mentors, Lonnie Wilson and Daniel Chaffetz, were the two people that were the most responsible for Buku being built. I want to say back in '05, and what was so wonderful about that is Buku was literally built by guys in the community that at one point were in the streets, getting money how they needed to, and came from came from struggle and had to overcome many challenges. And Lonnie Lonnie and Daniel and other people that were organizing around Buku, really saw the brilliance and the potential in these young men and said, look, as long as you are willing and you are able to work, we want to put a hammer in your hand and give you the skills you need to build Buku. And that's what they did. And they built it. And it turned into kind of a hub for community organizing and different events. They had a kind of a stage there where they did different events. They had a music studio. They had a cafe in the center, and I came to know more about Buku because Lonnie, around maybe 2011, 2012, maybe this was around 2013. I get all the dates mixed up, but he came to me and said, look, Daniel may lose this property. And it's in a short sale period right now. And we need to figure out how to put together an ownership group so that we can purchase it and make sure that it stays community owned. And so I ran around and put a business plan together with some of the people that were working on it, and went around to different people in the community trying to raise money to buy Buku. I think we could have got it from the bank for about $250,000, $300,000 at the time. And what I remember most about it is that, we had so many different ideas that I think we need to bring back to the community. We were reaching out to Robert Morris and had them through this iCenter program, had them, their students came in and drew up schematic renderings of how we could relocate the cafe to the northern side of the building so that we could open up the space for larger events. Because one of the issues that we saw when we looked at the business plan is because that cafe bifurcates the main two areas, you can't really take advantage of the square footage. And so we wanted to relocate the position of that cafe, open it up so that we can do larger events. And we were creative enough to have Robert Morris come up with the schematic renderings of what that would look like to do that for free. We were reaching out to Le Cordon Bleu, which is no longer, I think, in operation, but it's a culinary school. And we were going to have students come in and do a battle of the chef where, some of the more successful students could come in and compete. And the best candidates, the best chefs basically would get like a 3-month residency in the cafe. And then we could kind of alternate people to keep it fresh and interesting there. And the reason why this is important is, I've had a lot of conversations with Paul Zalmazak, who's the economic development manager, and what he is telling us, and what Annie Coakley at Down St. Evanston is telling us, is that that retail is certain parts of retail are drying up, that more and more people are purchasing things online, especially millennials. I think the number is 67% of millennials prefer to do their shopping online. And really what we need to figure out is how can we create experiential events that people are willing to get behind their computers and go outside and patronize business. And so I think of escape room, right? If anybody on the call has went to escape room before, where they trap you in this area and take the key and you have to figure out how to escape the room. It's those type of things that are going to draw people out of their homes and get them to spend money here locally instead of online. And back in 2013, these are the type of ideas that we were also experimenting with. Eventually, the city, we couldn't raise the money. We learned a lot, and we're able to organize a lot of people around the center. We were able to revitalize it. We cleaned it up, and in a lot of ways, prepared it for what ultimately happened, which is the city of Evanston took over the building, and that's where it is now. But there is opportunity, and this is the last thing I'll say about this. There is an opportunity. Dino Robinson and I from Shorefront has been talking for many years about their desire, Shorefront Legacy, to relocate Shorefront Legacy permanently to the Fifth Ward. And the site that we've always looked at is Church and Dodge, and specifically what is now known as Gibbs Morrison. I think we can use, Shorefront as a kind of an anchor tenant there to draw in people who want to learn more about the contributions that African Americans have made here in North Shore, and use that to get more attention to what is now is a underexposed ward. We can get more attention around the ward, get more foot traffic in that particular business corridor, so that we can support some of the businesses that are in that immediate area. So a lot of opportunity, a lot of past opportunity there, or past, Buku and Gibbs Morrison has meant a lot to the community, but there's still some opportunity to utilize that space.
Yes, yes. I want to open it up to questions. So if anyone has a question, please use the raise your hand signal.
And sorry for that long question
I
response.
mean,
I
you
was trying to hit all the points.
you answered it. You
Yeah.
answered it. I mean, it just shows that you've been connected to the Fifth Ward for a long time. I mean, you put some blood, sweat, and tears into it trying to save Buku, and I know that you still have that heart and that passion for the Fifth Ward, for Evanston as a whole, but definitely for the Fifth Ward to do so many other things, so many other ideas you have.
I
And
want people to know I've never made a dime off of all the work, and you can see some of the work that we've been able to do collectively, because it's always a we thing, on burns45.com, BURNSFOR, the number 5.com. But I want y'all to know that anytime that you've seen me do something, I have not gotten a dime for it. In fact, in most cases, I put my own money into it, and or we fundraise, and Evanstonians are a generous group, and so they've supported us in what we've tried to do. But I've never had a title except one that I gave myself, and I never got paid for this. I've always wanted to be a part of this particular community, because in a lot of respects, the Fifth Ward is, and when I say the Fifth Ward, that's a political boundary, but really when I came to know the ward, it's the West End, right? And in a more colloquial sense, it's where Black folk are, right? This is where our people are. It's analogous to the Black Belt on the south side of Chicago, and Harlem, right? And on the East Coast, right? This is a hub for Black folks. And it's where you can see the richness of our culture, and the diversity of it as well. And so I've always, since I spent every waking day from the 6th grade on in the Fifth Ward, I got to shout out William Robinson and the Robinson and Osborne family on Brown Avenue, and the Weavers on the Dead End Alliance, and Derek Walker, the Walkers on Emerson. I mean, this is a beautiful community made up of really strong generational families, some that have been here 100 years, that I pay all the respect to, and I appreciate them for welcoming me in to this beautiful community. But let's sorry about that. We can answer some questions.
that's all right. You're just showing your love. You're just showing your love for the Fifth Ward. So yes, pour it out. People want to hear that and feel that. You have a question. Can you help us understand what differentiate yourself from other candidates?
Yeah.
What will differentiate yourself from other candidates?
Yeah. Well, I hope I've shown even a little bit that I have a record of service to the Fifth Ward, and specific to the Fifth Ward. And again, you can go on the website, and it'll talk about the Fifth Ward Festival that we've organized, and it'll talk about revitalizing Fifth Ward businesses. It'll talk about how I was the Fifth Ward field manager in 2012 when we made a push to get a public school, a K-5 school here in the Fifth Ward. It'll talk about different issues that I've advocated for in Evanston or against, that have that relate to the Fifth Ward and the people living in it in many ways. So I wouldn't have run if I felt like the other candidates that I knew were running had a record of service that I have specifically here in the Fifth Ward. Wouldn't have done it, which is why I reached out to Gilo Kwesi Logan immediately when I thought about it, and I said, "Look, man, this is really, you're up, right? And if you run, I'll support you 100%." And he decided not to run for reasons that I'll let him describe. But this was, I talked to him. I talked to Alderman Holmes and Alderman Simmons, of course, and Mr. Jerome Summers, who was one of those legacy families that's been here for a while. And it took a while for me to get to this point. So I wouldn't have run if I felt like any of the other candidates had a verifiable record of service in the Fifth Ward, but also in Evanston for the past 10 years. So that's one. Two, I wouldn't have run if I felt like the other candidates understood how government works as well as I do. I'll also understand how they tie together. I've been, privileged to work again on several campaigns, some that we've run for Cook County government, we've run for City of Chicago Alderman, we've run campaigns for state representative, and we've run campaigns here locally in Evanston. I have an acute awareness of how government works, in some ways, how it's not working right for us, how we can work together to improve it. And specifically in Evanston, I've spent, countless hours, right? It's hard for me to even remember it all on committee meetings here in Evanston and council meetings. I've had conversations with every single seated alderman and many conversations with them. I know a lot of staff here, and I've had many conversations with staff, both as in my role as a concerned resident and as an organizer. But also, again, I spent some time as a deputy city clerk, and one of the roles when Devon was first elected, that the clerk was first elected, that many may not understand is, yes, the city clerk is the records keeper and does minutes and does FOIA. But when we first got in, it was also, it did mail for the entire city, it distributed mail. And so I also came to know more about all of the different departments and the staff then, and got to meet many of them and understand how they fit within this corporation of ours and what their roles are and what some of their priorities and goals are. So again, if I knew there was someone that really understood how government works and understand how this particular government works and could offer a perspective on how to improve it, that could be as targeted and as I think I can provide, I wouldn't have decided to run. And the next thing is that, we have so much tremendous opportunity here in the Fifth Ward to really dream big and plan accordingly. We have a lot of natural space that we can take advantage of, from Twiggs Park to the old Mayfair line. And there's been many different studies and plans made to try to revitalize the old Mayfair line and use it as a way to make the Fifth Ward more walkable, to connect the Fifth Ward with Chicago, with other parts of Evanston that we can take advantage of. And if I thought that somebody really could come in with an understanding of those three things, if somebody checked all those boxes off, I wouldn't have decided to run. And because of that, this is why I actually forgot my thought. Because there's so much opportunity. I remember my thought now. We need somebody that has the availability to attend to the needs of the ward, and this is a big one. I've really arranged my life so I would not be in a cubicle from 9 to 5. I've made very intentional decisions to make sure that my work schedule is flexible and that I can make myself available to this board, not just as a potential alderman, but as just a concerned citizen trying to do my best to follow in my mother's footsteps, which is to get involved and be involved and stay involved as much as you can. And so I'm available. My priorities and my responsibilities are not split between communities and different interests. I live in the Fifth Ward. I'm raising my family here. I'm getting married soon, but I have my 8-year-old son. I have Noella, who's still in her mother's stomach, who's going to be expected to be born on my birthday, March 21st. My business, my consulting company is here. I'm all in, right? I'm not going anywhere. My interests, my work is all kind of focused and centered here in the Fifth Ward. It has been for the last 10 years, and it'll continue to into the future. So that's the last thing, is we need somebody that's available, that has a flexible work schedule, and that can really attend to the needs of this ward with such a tremendous opportunity.
And you have been doing that. That's all I know of you. That's
Yeah.
what I know of your mother. And she said, well, Bobby learned from me because I had him running around with me, helping
Yeah.
candidates and getting involved in local government. And now your son is probably going to be president because he's running around with you putting.
My mother worked in the Fifth Ward at CETA, which is a social service organization that helps people with their basic needs: LAHEAP, rental assistance, employment, refinancing their homes. And she worked at CETA for 18 years when it was in the Masonic Temple, which is right next door to Hecky's, God rest his soul, and it's now a design company that's there now. But I came to know the Fifth Ward through her and also my own personal relationships. Met many friends that are lifelong friends to this day. But I really understood need at an early age because of my mother, because she worked at CETA, but also for a time she was on for about 15 years. She also was on the school board at District 202. And so I got a nice mix of kind of understanding need, but also understanding systems work early on. And then, of course, as an adult, I went on to explore those two things myself. So shout out to my mother, Martha Burns. I always say everything good about me I got from my mother. Everything else I picked up from the streets, but I love her.
That's a good combination. That's a good combination, I think. Well, Bobby, I think you have really painted the picture that it's important that candidates have been active on committees, been active in the community that they want to be the alderman. Again, I'll say, Alderman Braithwaite had explained that. He was like, you have to have been active
Yeah,
before thinking you can just be alderman tomorrow,
yeah.
and I feel like you've pretty much been doing the work already. You've been doing the work already.
Yeah,
So
you cannot read your way into understanding how to responsibly, right, advocate and guide a community. You can't read your way into that. You can't dabble. You got to get in it, and it takes time to build that trust with the community. It takes time to build that record. And again, if there was anybody in the race that I felt like had the range of understanding of local government, of all the different issues, like we have some candidates that appear to be more single issue candidates. As alderman, you have to weigh in on budget, you have to weigh in affordable housing, you have to weigh in on policing, right? You have to weigh in on climate action, our climate action goals. We need somebody in this seat, whether it was me or somebody else, that has committed themselves to understanding government, committed themselves to understanding the issues that are going to be discussed once you're elected and that are important to the members of the Evanston community, but also the Fifth Ward, or we really would risk moving in the wrong direction, right? Alderman Simmons really has put Alderman Holmes, Alderman Simmons have really put us in position to now flourish as a ward. We deserve that. We need that. And it will happen with the help of the Fifth Ward residents and the support of the community at large.
well, we went over time, Bobby. I enjoyed the conversation, and I mean, you've already painted a beautiful picture. So thank you so much. I know you didn't want to share too much of your vision. You was like, no, no, we're gonna wait on that. We're gonna wait on that. But I know you've had a plan for a very long time. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Malika, so much. Thank you to all the Evanston residents and the Fifth Ward residents who have come out today. Again, burns45.com. Feel free to check it out. You could also use that link to connect with me on social media. And at the end of the day, I am at your service. Whatever questions you have, please reach out and I will respond to them. But thank y'all so much.
all right, and we'll have you back again as the race starts to heat up.
Yes, indeed.
We'll
Look
have you
forward
back.
to it.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Bobby. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Take care, y'all.
All right. Okay, this is Malika, Evanston Live TV. Thank you all so much for joining us. That was Fifth Ward Alderman candidate Bobby Burns. You all be sure to contact him if you have any questions, and check out what his plans are. We'll definitely have him back on the show as this race starts to build up. It's already getting a little intense, and they're just getting out the gate. So it's going to be good. I'm excited. I'm actually really excited about this Evanston election. We've got some great candidates, great incumbents, so it's going to be good. So you all stay tuned here, Evanston Live TV.